Welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for joining us. Well, how about this topic? The coolest thing made in Pennsylvania. We're going to talk about that and some other aspects of the economy. But first, we have the Treasurer of the state of Pennsylvania, Stacy Garrity. We're going to talk about the economy. We're going to talk about Israel bonds. We have some important subjects to take up with the State Treasurer, and we'll do that after these words.
Welcome to the fast-paced and unrehearsed weekly discussion featuring the leaders who help shape your world. Join us as we address the issues that impact you each and every day. This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
All right, Stacy Garrity, who is the Pennsylvania Treasurer, sitting across from me, joins me today for our program, and we have a number of important topics to take up with her. Let's start out with the general status of the economy of Pennsylvania. How would you describe it?
I'd say it's pretty good right now. I mean, we have a decent amount of money in our rainy day fund, which when I took office, we only had enough to run the state for less than 48 hours.
That means should we get into a problem with running state government, we have money available?
We do have money available, so about $6.2 billion, which is about enough to run the state for about 45 days. So I would say, though, we still do have a structural deficit, Terry. And so what that means is we spend more than what we bring in. And so we have to be careful to try, I know everybody wants to spend every dollar that we have, but we have to be careful not to spend that money for recurring programs.
All right. There's an important topic that I know you want to talk about, and that is unclaimed property. You actually, there's a fair amount of it, and you auction off unclaimed property. Is that correct?
We do,
Explain
and
that.
I love to talk about unclaimed property. So it can be a lot of things. It can be forgotten bank accounts. It can be uncashed checks, insurance policies, rebates, even old stocks and bonds. And so we mainly get it from financial institutions because after 3 years of dormancy, they have to escheat it to the state. But we also get tangible items mainly from forgotten safe deposit boxes.
Well, how does it actually work? How does someone get involved in it if they want to go find out about unclaimed property?
Okay, so first of all, we have $4.5 billion, billion with a B. And that means about 1 in 10 Pennsylvanians has unclaimed property. The average claim is about $1,600. Very easy to check. You just go to patreasury.gov/unclaimed property. Pop your name in and see if you have anything. And right now, with families still struggling with inflation, especially groceries, getting a little bit of extra cash can really go a long way.
1 in 10?
Yes.
And are people, applying for this? Are they trying to get this money back?
Well, they are, but not enough of them. So this past year, we set a brand new record for the most money ever given back in a single year by Treasury, so about $274 million.
$274 million?
Yes, new record, but we want to do better. And so I always encourage, I travel the state. So I go to all 67 counties every single year, most counties multiple times, and I talk about this everywhere I go because you know what? It's not the state's money. It belongs to the hardworking Pennsylvanians that earn it.
And what's the auction?
Okay, so the auction is tangible items. So, and these are largely from safe deposit boxes. So it can be things like, all kinds of jewelry, collectibles, and for example.
Houses? Are there houses involved?
No. But one time somebody lost $2 million. Platinum and gold bars. Now, we found the owners. $2
million?
Yes.
You lost $2 million.
Oh, well, I didn't, but they did.
I know.
Yes, I wouldn't lose that amount of money. But at any rate, so after we get these items back, and these are abandoned safe deposit boxes, we look for these owners for at least 3 years. And although we have the largest working vault in the nation, fun fact, sometimes we run out of space. So then we have 2 auctions, one in the fall, one in the spring. And this past fall, we also set a brand new record of just about $300,000 proceeds from the auction. But the good news is,
I mean, what's surprising to me is the amount of money that you're talking about in these auctions.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
And is it going up or down lately?
Oh, well, for the auctions, it seems like every auction we hit a new record. So it's going up. But, you know, it's an online auction. You can go to Pook and Pook.
So you don't show up in person, you do it online.
It's online. So this past auction, we don't have the results back yet because it takes about 45 days, so I don't know if we'll break another new record, but we typically bring in between $200,000 and $300,000. Right. But very interesting, we auctioned off 27 ounces of palladium, which is a form of platinum.
You learn something every day.
14-karat gold rosary beads, so a lot of interesting, unique items.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about the importance of Israel bonds, and we'll get to that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania State Education Association, bringing the power of a great education to our schools, our students, and our communities. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Welcome back. Well, Stacy Garrity, Pennsylvania's treasurer, is my guest for another segment. And coming up is Luke Bernstein. He's the president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry. All right, you've received attention recently involving the state's investment in bonds from Israel. First of all, why did you make that decision?
Well, first of all, we've been invested in these bonds since the 90s. And they pay
since the 1990s.
That's correct. As many states have been. So treasurers from both parties have invested in these bonds. They pay an above-market return. Very reliable.
Well, I'll tell you something. This is not a topic that gets very much attention. And you're saying it's not a new thing. These investments have been made for some time.
They have, over 3 decades.
When people find out, what's the reaction to that investment?
So in general, it's very positive because, you know, as you know, I travel all over the state. So in general, people are pleased because we did make an additional investment after the October 7th Hamas attacks, just like Ohio did, Illinois, New York, many, many states. And really, if you look at the total investment of what my staff does, Israel bonds is basically a little over 0.1%. But as I said, you know, I'm guided by the prudent investor standards, and Israel bonds meets a criteria. I think it's important that democracies support democracies. Israel is our biggest ally in the world.
Are a lot of people aware of this, or is this something that when you go out and talk about it, that people find surprising? I'm not saying whether they support it or not, that they just find surprising.
Well, we had 2 protests, as you know, and so that has garnered some attention to it. Before, I would say that there's generally, you know, people are not aware of it, but the 2 protests happened. One about 200 people. The last one was, I think it was 3 Mondays ago, and they staged a die-in in front of my building, laying down on the sidewalk. And, you know, of course, my response was, well, the only die-in that I know happened on October 7th when almost, you know, 1,100 innocent Israelis were murdered by Hamas.
Yeah. Well, before I let you go, I want to talk about another subject, and that has to do with education and some bills. One called the College and Career Savings Program, What's that about and why is it important?
Yeah, so the PA 529 College and Career Savings Program is a great way for families to save for their kids' education. The program's been in existence for over 3 decades. There's about 300,000 accounts and with assets of just about $7.6 billion. So the good thing is we've been able to cut fees multiple times, saving parents and grandparents over $11 million right into their pockets.
So obviously these are savings that people, are many people aware of this program? Do you have difficulty informing people of the existence of this program?
This program is fairly well known, and in fact, just in November, our investment plan, which is one of the 2 529 programs, got upgraded to a gold plan by Morningstar, which makes it only one of 2 gold plans in the entire nation.
Wow.
And so I have an outreach team, so I have people in all 4 corners of the state, because when I did take office, I found that a lot of people, particularly in the rural counties, weren't aware of our consumer programs.
Yeah.
And so we go out and we talk about them, you know, everywhere.
All right, there's something else in the legislature that I want to talk about, and I'm going to read this to make sure I get it well.
Okay.
Right. House Bill 1745 would create a tax credit for employers who contribute to their employees' Pennsylvania 529 accounts. What's the 529 account?
Yeah, the 529 account, that's exactly what we just talked about.
Right.
So this House bill, I am super excited about it because it's a great new tool to allow people to save. So this bill encourages employers to contribute to the PA 529 and PA ABLE accounts. PA ABLE is our program for people with disabilities, which is also it's a fantastic program. And so what it does, it creates a tax credit. So 7 other states already do this. So we know the idea works. So employers who contribute to accounts owned by their employees will get a 25% tax credit of up to $500.
All right, I'm going to let you go, but before I do, big items on the agenda you didn't mention.
Big items. So 5-year anniversary of Keystone Scholars, hit a new threshold with PA ABLE, which is our program for people with disabilities, just crossed $120 million, which is fantastic.
Thank you for coming on the program. All right, imagine this, the coolest thing made in Pennsylvania. We'll take that up and more soon.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Cross-State Credit Union Association. Credit unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, go to ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties, representing the faculty and coaches who are devoted to providing quality public higher education for Pennsylvania's college students.
All right, every now and then we get to a topic that I roll my eyes at and say, what is this about? The coolest thing made in Pennsylvania to do. Talk about that and more is Luke Bernstein. He's the president of the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry. Before we get to the coolest thing, and I really want to talk about this program or ask you about the program, but first, you heard Treasurer Garrity talk about the status of the economy. As someone who spends literally his entire life, professional life, and probably personal life as well, talk about the economy in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I think our economy here is a very diverse economy. So it's the most diverse economy in the country as we are ranked because we are not overly reliant on any specific industry or sector. But with that, we have incredible opportunities here that many other states would kill for. Our energy, our natural resources, our proximity to markets, our educational system. Those are real key components that really push our economy forward. Right now, to the state of the economy, we are coming out of a very high inflationary period where it still continues to be high. So many small businesses and businesses are concerned about maybe potential tax pressure when you have the federal tax bill coming up, the spending bill. So as the treasurer talked about, concerns of overspending for what we're taking in terms of revenue. That's the one area, because coming out of COVID with the huge government surplus, and we spent a lot more than we took in, now's the time where we really have to generate revenue as economy. The other piece is our unemployment continues to be low, but we need more workers entering the workforce. So we've got to be more strategic on how we encourage more workers to enter that workforce. That's a big issue for the Pennsylvania economy, because if we can't match the employer demand, we're not going to keep pace with other states and other areas.
Yeah. All right, here we go. The coolest thing made in Pennsylvania. Talk about the program and then get to obviously the big question.
The coolest thing in Pennsylvania is taking Pennsylvania by storm. So we started this last year because there are so many things made in our state that many people don't know anything about. They don't know it's made here. Martin guitar. People know about Yuengling. Do you know Martin guitar is made here? Crayola crayons. Peeps, from food to manufacturing and all the different items. So we started this really to highlight all the cool things that are made here. And so we started with last year, a tournament of 32 items. 32. Now we started this year 64.
64 items.
We are entering the final stages. You can vote at PA Chamber on our Twitter or X page, on our Instagram page where we go on. You see the different matchup. But
we've had past winners?
We've had one past winner.
One. What was it?
In Pennsylvania, where we make Harley Davidson and Zippo lighters and Martin guitars, of course, we vote with our stomach and pick the Primanti Brothers sandwich, which is essentially a hamburger with fries on it. So that was the coolest thing last year. It's still alive this year, and we're going to see how it shapes up.
Oh my! I'm telling you, you can't make this stuff up, can you? But you enjoy. I can tell you enjoy doing this.
It's a really great way to get people from all regions of the state excited about what we do. People get really proud of their areas, the companies engaged, the workers who make these products every day get really excited about it. So we are a manufacturing
and we're really
leader.
complex and diverse in terms of what we produce in this state, aren't we?
Yeah, we
used to be an old industrial state, coal, iron, steel. You get it.
Yeah, well, in the western part of the state, in Astrobotic creating the lunar lander that set headwinds for the moon, and we have an eastern part of the state, other parts, and we have fun things like cheesesteaks and pierogies and Yuengling lager and things like that. So it's a great competition.
All right, we're going to run to a break. When we come back, I want to ask Luke about the fair share tax plan. We're going to get to some serious business, and we'll do that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Pennsylvania American Water. We keep life flowing across the Keystone State.
All right, my guest is Luke Bernstein. He's the president of the Pennsylvania Chamber, and we're now going to shift away from the coolest thing made in Pennsylvania to some questions about taxes and something that you refer to as the Fair Share Tax Plan. What's the Fair Share Tax Plan?
Well, we talked about the coolest things in Pennsylvania. This would probably be the uncoolest piece of legislation in Pennsylvania. This is House Bill 1773 would actually quadruple the taxes for small businesses, specifically small business. So in your C Corps, larger corporations, they're a C Corp, they would pay the C&I. This would be directed at the 180,000 small businesses in Pennsylvania, impacting the over 2 million employees of small businesses. So what this would do is it would take their tax on profits from 3% all the way to 12%. This would be an absolutely devastating
So it's not an
proposal.
increase like from 3 to 4 or 5%. It's 3 to
12%. So even if you're going from 3 to 3.3, and you're increasing it up, which would, again, increasing taxes on small business right now in inflation is a horrible idea. This would be the uncoolest policy in Pennsylvania, because this would not only disproportionately impact the smallest of businesses, this would have a devastating ripple effect on the Pennsylvania economy, Pennsylvania consumers, and Pennsylvania
would
workers.
raise the prices that people pay for
It would
things.
increase prices across the board.
All right, now this is a plan in the state legislature, in the House and or the Senate.
This is a plan in the House, and this was proposed, and it's something that really should never see the light of day. We recently met with a number of small businesses, and they just talked about the extreme impacts a proposal like this would have on their ability to do business and serve clients. We're still in high inflation. This would really exacerbate the problem.
And what's the likelihood that it will pass the legislature?
We're working hard to make sure that doesn't happen. So at pachamber.org, you can see details on the proposal and what we're doing to ensure this never gets out of the State House or advances into law.
Have you heard from Governor Josh Shapiro about it?
He has not taken a position on the plan. I would think for someone who has talked about making Pennsylvania more competitive and someone that does not like losing and losing to Ohio, he would be against this proposal, but his office has not taken a position on the plan.
Is this in both chambers again or just one?
Just in the House, just in the State House.
So it's not been introduced in the Senate.
It's not been introduced in the Senate. The Senate leadership has said they are opposed to this plan because of the burden it puts on small
Democrats
businesses.
and Republicans?
I've heard from Senate Republican leaders. I have not heard from Senate Democrats on the plan. I would be surprised if any Senate leader, Republican or Democrat, would be supportive of the plan because of the negative impacts it has on small business.
Yeah. And so Governor, you think, would oppose it because he's made the arguments repeatedly about making Pennsylvania business friendly. I think that's the expression that he often uses.
Yeah, Pennsylvania right now has one of the highest tax burdens on businesses. This, from small business perspective, would quadruple that burden. And so for someone who has talked about making Pennsylvania more competitive, I would be shocked if Governor Shapiro would come out in favor of a proposal like this, but I haven't seen him take a position on it. This is something that would really take the burden on the smallest of employers and put really difficult decisions on them. Yeah. Can we continue to hire? Can we maintain our staff that we have? And now we're going to have to increase prices across the board at a time where consumers just can't afford to do that.
And your point would be relative to the overall status of the economy.
Correct. Yeah. This would not impact one or two small businesses. This would impact the entire small business community.
Yeah. So what else, if there's anything that I could ask you about dealing with the status of the economy and the legislature in less than a minute, is there anything that you would think the legislature should do?
Yeah, there are a lot of things. So we talked about the corporate net income tax. We are trying to reduce that over time, but we still have a provision on net operating losses, which is a unfair tax on startup companies in Pennsylvania.
Right.
We are an outlier. So we ranked 50 out of 50 in the country because we cap what you can write off. That discourages investment. So what the legislature could do would be increase that cap on net operating losses to encourage investment and to encourage startup businesses to start here and grow here.
All right, we're out of time. Thanks for the update, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And as always, stay well.